We are live.
It's the House and Senate Conference Committee on H.951, newly arrested from our break in conference committees. I have one thing if you want me to start by the communication link, which I can just give you. Sorry, no,
Okay,
I can also email it to you.
thank you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
It's basically making sure that the pilot project is in line with the work in the design and concept of the statewide system, so that it isn't just a one-off project or a project that doesn't meet all the system of systems requirements that is statewide. And that takes the advantage of the statewide LMR UFH system that's going to be built on all the towers that the police have, and that they give some tasks from the Department of Public Safety to verify several things before they give the money.
Okay. And have you talked to the Department of Public Safety
I have,
task force about?
I sent it to Department of Public Safety. I just was on the phone with one of the fire members of the task force. I thought he was on that email list, but I guess it was the wrong email. So I told him about it, and it was, I'd say, in the direction of he wanted to go, but I don't know if it was exactly what he wanted.
One of the task force people or one of the
Yeah,
Capitol
the fire, no, one of the task force.
The task force.
The fire chief from the town hall.
Okay, right.
So that's that.
Okay, so we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I would like to.
Yeah.
And we won't be signing this because this makes it look like it's the whole committee of comments.
Yeah.
Or with one.
Yeah.
That's it, we're done. We just have to sign
Yeah. I don't
it.
know. Yeah. I didn't talk to him about why he did that yet.
And somebody was optimistic and enthusiastic about this.
I think maybe he hadn't done an amendment to a conference report yet.
Yeah,
Okay, I will review this
that would be great.
Yeah, we're happy to talk about it.
Okay.
with our GovOps people.
Great. And then we gave you a spreadsheet
Yes.
yesterday with various,
So we started to look at the food.
yeah,
Great.
I've been thinking of the other spreadsheet if the
Oh.
food one wasn't done.
The
yet.
food one, we're gonna have to get back to you.
Yep, okay,
We actually haven't met to talk about this one. I'm not expecting big differences, but we haven't talked about it. So hopefully next time we meet,
okay,
we can get back to you
all right,
on both of them.
on both the spreadsheet and the food, okay. And then this back to the other one. There were a couple of little line items, and I know that, we're gonna hand out some language to go over and ask Grady to go over it for us, but before we did that, there were just a couple of sort of stray line items. It's line 136, which is at the bottom of page 5. The opioid abatement, special fund, language, et cetera, we're happy to agree to the Senate version on that line 136. It's just kind of a stray line.
Okay. Yeah.
Get that on, okay. And then, we are, in the language, there's, information to support the parent-child centers, but actually bigger than the parent-child centers, so we'll see that, but we also, on the other hand, would like to remove the what one is that? Line 138.
Oh, yeah.
It's 138. Which is the, no, it's
135.
135, I'm sorry.
135.
I wrote the wrong number. The statewide behavioral prevention program. Nobody in the House has heard anything about it, and that seems like a next year thing, not put in the budget for this year. So we'd like to take that out, to remove that language.
Okay, well, we need to talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that. Well, talk about that.
Okay, so that'll be one that's going
Okay,
to come back to.
yeah, I'd say that the House feels really strong about that. And we're trying to offset it with the other intent language that you're gonna hear about when we get the language related to the parent-child centers. So I think we're at language and also joint fiscal, I think has information on, 938 spread through here. So I don't know which we want to do first. I don't care whoever's ready to do one, but that would be.
Sure.
938.
Same sheet that you've seen before, just as a new date. And a different heading, but the same beautiful colors you've come accustomed to. And so I'm just gonna, I don't know if you want me to walk through, but the first thing I can start with is quickly orient you with it. On the left side, you have 938 is past the House. In the middle, you have 938 is past the Senate. On the far right is Delta. And then going down, and you see it's base general fund, one-time general fund, federal funds, total for each. The only big difference between what the House did and the Senate did was emergency housing. They took 500,000 out of emergency housing for those motels and moved it to create a new appropriation for the Community Resource Center and CBO. Otherwise, both House and Senate stayed true to the sort of goal of trying to stay within the boxes and the appropriation that were done by the governor's recommendation. So, if there's anything else you want me to say, I didn't look at which sections it could mark off, but
The goal is to put the specific numbers in the budget in the right section. Where the Senate, because you hadn't done 938, had just put general amounts, and now we want to be specific in the budget.
Yeah.
Spread that out. So,
we've been working on that.
right.
Yeah.
So that's what you want.
Okay, well, we can have
Whenever.
that for you.
Yeah.
Sometime soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be great.
Yeah.
Great work. This whole bill. Well, thank you.
Now, Mr. Nixon, are you ready to go through language?
Yep. So this is a number of House proposals, well, you could go and help explain as,
How do I do this?
I can,
Maybe you.
maybe
do
I'll
it.
hand it
I
to
think
you
that
to
would be
hand out.
better.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's gonna be stable. That's.
So this is the first proposal.
We have to stay clear.
Oh, is it? Is that for everybody? Oh, this is, oh, sorry, it's not. I'm still confused. Don't mind me.
We didn't collate it, so that way each proposal could just be handed
Stand
out
on its own.
individually.
Okay, so we have extras.
That way they really speak for themselves.
Oh, great.
So I'll defer to Rep. Shaw
Well,
when you'd like me to.
you can start right now.
Great. So this first proposal would be a minor amendment to the one-time appropriation to end homelessness Vermont for a grant. This would add in the language to continue providing statewide to the explanation of the services that End Homelessness Vermont provides. And then the legislative intent section that would be added to the bill. This expresses findings from the General Assembly relating to Vermont's homelessness population. And again, the intersection between this grant and the Vermont Homelessness Response Continuum in H.951, and then the services that End Homelessness Vermont provides. And then expressing that it's the intent of the General Assembly in that sub B that the grant be to support that organization's continued statewide work.
Oh, okay. All of these will just.
You take a look at.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Check out now.
So this proposal would add language to the current section E 105.1 relating to the deficit mitigation report from ADS in consultation with the Department of Finance and Management relating to the CIT internal service funds. This would add 2 more reports, one from ADS on estimates for sources and uses of service funds, compliance with new procedures, and any advantages of a revised budgeting approach. And then one further report from Finance and Management on IT project expenditure tracking.
This came from my work with ADS and with ADS and our budgeting committee trying to understand the restructuring of ADS in terms of the financing, breaking it up into 3 individual funds and how they all fell through. And then you add them back up. They do make sense, but in the beginning it was confusing for everybody. And so both the committee, the Energy and Digital Infrastructure Committee, as well as the Budgeting Committee, felt it would be useful to see a 6-month review of how things are working so far and how they are able to track expenses in a better way so that they know the charges that are going out and the expenses that are coming in, so they can keep track of them. Validate that approach. And then the last one was a request from the housing group of the Energy and Digital Infrastructure Committee in the House that with this change in structure, we are moving the cost of an IT project directly to an agency that's working with it. And so they wanted to be able to track all the expenses that might happen with that particular project. So they have already discussed this with the Congress to figure out a way to track those expenses so that within A&R, for example, they know, well, we spent this much on software and we spent this much on personnel who took their time off their regular work to work on the IT project instead, and maybe we have to go with a consultant. And anyway, so they could track all of those expenses related to an IT project, not just purchasing software.
So it's by funds, so there's like different funds depending on the part.
Yes, okay, yes, depending on how we get that, yeah, right. Because some of it, they can maybe charge off to their federal funds if they're getting grant money in order to do something. Or some of it they come from the just, but the idea was to get a broader idea of what this whole specific IT project might cost, not just the initial purchases.
So it's just about the money, the outcomes.
Not really, it's just a way of tracking the expenses.
Because they're moving it out to the agencies and it
Right,
could just
exactly.
disappear. We never know what's happening. And then suddenly it's $10 million here and there. So, have that. So, thanks, Mike.
The next proposal, this is language that's already in the Capitol Bill Committee Conference report. This is updated language relating to the high-end system facility for youth, the Green Mountain Youth Campus. So this would be duplicative of the language in the Capitol Bill, just belts and suspenders. I think the committee heard about this earlier in the week, just to ensure that this language relating to these committees goes to both bills, and it's seen, I think, a concern from the conference on the Capitol Bill was just ensuring that this language was visible.
Just putting it in the budget.
Balance and suspension purposes.
We had different language. And it would have prevented, BGS from going forward with design work. And so this new language enables it to go forward with the design work, but before making any commitments to building, or to operations, that they come not only with the design, but also the, operating budget. Okay. Oh, next.
The next proposal is a report from AHS to the committees on appropriations, as well as the House of Human Services Committee and the Senate Health and Welfare Committee, relating to community-based organizations, community partners, and service providers that are currently identified in Title 33 of the Vermont statutes, but are not included in budgetary inflation increase reports required by 33 VSA 125 or 506, which relates to substantively similar reports for DAs related to services at DCF and Dale. This would direct AHS to include a list of those entities in identifying the statute, past budgetary information, an estimate of the cost of providing similar rate increases, and then any statutory language for including that similar reporting language in statute. So this would be a revised construct replacing the language that currently relates to parent-child center network and control.
Right. So remember we talked about it, this umbrella thing, and the umbrella thing is all of those that are statutorily. Their statutes.
So this would be replaced.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, some Cs would be included in that, obviously, but we also aren't leaving out other people that we find out later that we should have found out. So it would actually, I think.
The next proposal relates to amendments to 33 VSA 1703. This relates to statutory reporting requirements vis-a-vis changes to SNAP. This would direct DCF to report to the chairs of the House Human Services and Senate Health and Welfare Committees, as well as community partners under contract with DCF to provide outreach services, federally authorized retailers operating in Vermont, and then any interested stakeholders, and JFC if the General Assembly is adjourned, to any substantive changes to laws governing SNAP. DCF would have to, in that reporting, identify anticipated impacts on the administrative burden or costs to DCF, community partners, or authorized retailers. And then again, make further changes stating that not less than 90 days prior to any implementation of a substantive voluntary change, the department shall provide or shall convene a meeting with those partners and interested stakeholders relating to changes.
Is there any language like this in there?
No, this is new.
It's
This is
there was
statute. This is statute that.
Changes on the statute.
Yeah,
Right.
To make,
Go ahead.
given, activity at the federal level, we just wanted to make sure that community partners were involved in hearing about and contributing to conversations about changes, either in the administration of the SNAP grant or federal changes. And
There's some things that the state can choose to do, but need to do some.
And this was worked out. We had some of the advocates in the room representing the community partners and DCF, and Senator Lyons. Yeah.
Well, and last fall, I think was an example of why we need to have something.
Right. Exactly.
The next proposal, these are technical corrections that the committee already heard about relating to the language for supervised visitation program funding. So the language erroneously cited an appropriation in B319 was corrected to B317. And it used the language distributed. The technical letter flagged that should be granted rather than distributed. And then in sub A, you won't see the change here, but the Senate language had language relating to the remainder of funds being used to support the startup costs for new sites. Because the language is explicit about directing the entirety of that amount to the existing community-based supervised visitation sites, the proposal would be to strike that language related to the remainder.
Because there's no remainder. Right.
Right.
Pass it out.
Oh, sorry. This language relates to reporting.
This payment.
This is payment form language that was worked out between Dale and the DAs and SSAs that were in conversation over the winter.
And there is language in the bill, it's based on.
Right. Every time we changed it, we thought we had it right, and
Yeah.
then it wasn't quite right, and now I think we finally have it right. So that everybody is on board with it.
The one thing I would note about this language is that, JFO did, legislative council recommended some, final tweaks to this language, that JFO has reached out to confirm are okay with.
Everybody, okay. But this is essentially what it is.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
This proposal relates to choices for care and the budget presentation from Dale. The both the House and Senate bills have language essentially attempting to achieve the same thing of directing Dale to in its FY28 budget include home and community-based services and skilled nursing facility services under the Choices for Care program as two entirely separate appropriations. Given the nature of that program, that is technically difficult to implement. So this language would instead request of the department or instruct of them to report to the relevant committees of jurisdiction from the prior 5 fiscal years, detailed information on expenditures in both of those parts of the Choices for Care program.
They do a quarterly report now. That's supposed to come to everybody, and probably the one that's still in my desk. Oh, no, I have it. So, and Judy, Senator Light's probably seen this, and it has it has data about dollars, but we may want to add people or something, but we would be intentionally getting this, opposed to just going to the report section that people forget about to the committees.
And then the final, this is a packet of 3 changes. This is more of a technical correction from JFO than a House proposal. This relates to 2 separate surcharges collected in the Human Resource Services Internal Service Fund. One ultimately ends up providing funds in the Human Resource Services Internal Service Fund for the State Ethics Commission, the other for the Office of Racial Equity. Both of those entities' budgets in FY27 and prior budget years rely on funds from that internal service fund. The respective surcharges were both repealed, although both entities still receive monies from that fund. So this language would, in the first instance, on the first page, extend the repeal for the State Ethics Commission surcharge until FY28. On the second page, it would do the same for the Office of Racial Equity surcharge. This section would have to be retroactive to June 30th, 2024, because the repeal already occurred. So the surcharge for the State Ethics Commission was effective July 1, 2025, the current fiscal year. So that would be a C section of the bill effective this year. The second section would be more just aligning legislation with past and current practice. And then the final section would be adding the Office of Racial Equity and the State Ethics Commission to the Human Resource Services Internal Service Fund as allowable uses of that fund. So this would be tying everything out to make sure that those budgets are actually properly accounted for.
What was the surcharge on?
So in both of these instances, the Commissioner of Human Resources has a small surcharge across all entities of state government, or so
HR
already does that for their own services. These surcharges were related to the services offered by the Office of Racial Equity and the State Ethics Commission.
which is kind of folding everybody in.
Correct. It's just making sure that the legislative language actually aligns with the current practice, and then just adding them in as allowable uses of the funds so that this issue doesn't occur in the future.
So how is that surcharge calculated? Is it based on payroll or? number of employees?
The original language had a specific percentage amount for each of these surcharges, but that percentage amount, I don't believe aligns with what the calculation ultimately was. I would have to reach out to the administration or human resources to know for sure. But this language would strike those percentage caps so that the actual budget amount aligns with whatever the surcharge currently is.
And they, what is the repeal? Does that mean that these two entities are not gonna pay us up 28 or that?
Currently, human resources implements these surcharges to fund these specific entities. This would extend the repeals until FY 28 so that the budgets as currently constructed align with the fact that surcharge is in effect. But then after FY 27, these two respective entities would just simply be allowable uses of the Human Resource Services Fund so that the Commissioner of Human Resources can just determine the amount of money this to get the charge with both of those entities.
Included your mission?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you think that she's on you?
Okay, good job. Good work. Up to you.
Okay,
A few minutes to print. We'll bring it next time.
so, we have been talking about the, UVM money, and also, as you know, that the House hasn't been keen on that, and so we've also been thinking about what are some things that are also important to the House. In addition to that, we, Senator Persson and I were in a meeting with the, Treasurer's Office recently, and it turns out that there is, just over $10 million additional in unclaimed property between FY 26 and FY 27. And we have been long concerned about using the money that's in the higher ed endowment trust fund because it goes to scholarships, and we don't want to reduce those opportunities for Vermonters. So the proposal that we want to put forth in concept, and then we can talk about language because we have things to show you at some point, but we want to just start now with the concept, would be that we would take the 10 million from the unclaimed property, which is over 2 years, FY 26 and FY 27. We will have a spreadsheet to show you for this. And then and put that would come to the general fund, and then we would transfer or appropriate it to the higher ed trust fund. And then we would also take 2 million from the higher ed trust fund. So that gets the $12 million. And we would have an agreement that said that the 12 million would be the last $12 million in. And they would have to raise, they've already raised a bunch of money, but that they would need to show us that they had raised $140 million, which would, because we've been told the project is somewhere between 150 and 170 million. So instead, if we say you have to raise 140 and then you get the 12 million, so they're pretty much at the end. And they need to do it within 3 years, which when President Trump came into our committee and talked to us about it, we specifically said, how long is this project going to take? And she said, we'll be done in 3 years. We also think there's a benefit to 3 years because I think there's sort of a psychological art to fundraising. And if folks know that they've got this great match and they're debating whether to give, they're going to give more quickly if they know there's a time. So 12 million they would certify to Commissioner of Finance and Management and to the Joint Fiscal Committee that they have raised $140 million. At which point the Secretary of the Administration could instruct the Treasurer to release the funds to UVM. So that's the broad concept. I've left anything out, but that's the broad concept for the 12 million. And as part of this package deal, we would like to put the Benefit Sisters program into the budget. And we would unreserve $3.49 million from the $30 million that we reserved from last year. It's a statewide program to help ensure that people who are receiving SNAP benefits and Medicaid benefits would be able to continue to get those benefits. The federal government's made it much more difficult for people to do that. We're already finding that we're losing people. And so we have community partners across the state that are in daily touch with people who are recipients of these services, and that they could help make sure that they were re-up and try to keep people on who should be kept on. So that's the other part of the proposal. We're working on language for that, and I would have that to give you probably one next. But that's sort of the combo package here, combo special.
Do you know how much has been raised to date for the UVM?
Yeah. My piece of paper. I think we were talking, is it close to 70? Yeah, around close to 70. 63.
I like
Um,
63, and
60.
the rest of the total cost is not 140 million, it's 101. That needs to be raised.
That's the rest, but
We'll work on that.
that we work on the details, but the whole project is something more than 101.
We put 78.
But so anyway, that's the intent is that anyway, it'll be the last 12 million. If we don't have the right number that they have to raise and pull before they get, we'll figure that
Figure
out.
that out.
But that's the
You
concept.
just want to make sure it's the last dollar.
Right, and it's 3 years, and it would be kept in the higher ed endowment trust fund, so the interest could still go to be used for scholarships, but that money would be clearly earmarked for UVM.
Any questions about that? And right now, we can talk about it.
You know, we just gave you a lot.
Yeah.
What's the total amount that you are suggesting for Medicaid and SNAP benefits?
Oh, for the benefit assistor program, I believe it's 3.49 million and maybe $635 at the end, something like that.
28 cents.
Just under 3.5 million. And we have the list of the specific organizations who already have contracts with various agencies or departments within AHS and who have agreed to do this work. So we have dollar amounts, we have sort of like the HOT program where we have specific, this would be a similar kind of construct. So we will have that language that's being worked on now. Specifics.
Yeah, we'll look at the language, the study. I can't remember exactly what we had in the study language. But we'll look at that.
Yes, so that section wasn't handed out because it's getting revised
Right.
to incorporate this.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the proposals. Makes sense, and we will hopefully get back to you at the next meeting.
Yeah, should we meet at like 4 or something, or does that work?
Yeah, we're on
4:30?
floor at 2:30. I don't think we have a lot more to do, so. That's 4.
Is that enough time to get done 4 o'clock? 2 hours? 4:50.
We will endeavor to do so.
We can adjust as necessary.
Yeah.
We know when the house schedule is.
The only schedule we have is to go there if there's a roll call.
Okay.
So,